The following podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed herein are solely those of the individual speakers and do not reflect their opinions towards their past, current, or future collaborators or employers. Nor do such opinions represent each speaker's whole and complete thoughts about the subject at hand, as some parts may have been edited down for clarity or due to time constraints. All of our guests and I recognize that any piece of entertainment put out into the world, especially one from a large studio, takes time, effort, dedication, creativity, and collaboration, and our thoughts on the finished product do not in any way reflect our opinions on any of the hard-working people who put great effort into the title or titles we are about to review. We support all artists, big and small. Hey there, folks. Just a couple things to bring up quickly before we begin. First of all, anyone who's listening to this just as it's released, apologies that this Halloween special is in fact coming out in November. We're basically pulling a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror in the early 2000s.
Pathetic humans! They're showing a Halloween episode in November!
Who's still thinking about Halloween? We've already got our Christmas decorations up.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho!
Think of it like watching Nightmare Before Christmas between Christmas and Halloween, something to that effect. And in addition, Sophie's cat Pebbles is every now and again going to interrupt the audio, but, sadly Pebbles passed away in July of this year because, yes, that is how long ago we had recorded this particular episode. So, to honor her memory, we are going to keep her adorable little vocal contributions intact for our discussion of Under Wraps. Thank you and enjoy.
Saturday, October 25th on Magical World of Disney, it's the Saturday premiere of Under Wraps, a Disney Channel original movie.
Don't be such a wuss.
Marshall is the ultimate horror fan. Gilbert is not. Along with Amy, the voice of reason.
I just worry about someone seeing me in those pajamas. Did they come like that, or do you have to cut out the feet?
These three friends decide to check out their scary neighbor's house, where they find the mummy of all monsters. But is he a mummy or a mouse? Under Wraps, Saturday, October 25th on Magical World of Disney.
Welcome, dear adventurers, old and new, to our special Halloween episode of The Disney Outlands, the podcast where we discuss feature films, short films, episodes, and specials produced by the Disney Company, but not found on their major streaming platforms. I am your host, Leif Bradshaw, and I will be your guide on this journey through the lost and forgotten, the unloved and unappreciated. Joining me on today's adventure is Rob Bergman.
Salutations.
Sophie Hurtado.
Who's your real mummy?
And Paul Spicknall.
Are you my mummy?
And from all those indications you no doubt just got, today's episode, we will be discussing the 1997 made-for-TV movie Under Wraps, released on October 25th, 1997, which, according to the IMDb summary, is about, quote, 3 curious teenagers and one very confused mummy collaborate through some risky adventures with a race against time to reunite the mummy with his lover from 3,000 years ago. So, has anyone amongst us ever seen this before, even heard of this before?
I had seen this once before after the podcast Escape from Walt Disney covered the remake of it. So, other than that, watching this the other night was my second time ever seeing this. And I'd forgotten some stuff in between those two viewings.
I have seen this movie and not more of like bits and pieces of it because my sister is a lot younger than I am, so she would watch this movie a lot during the month of October, and I would just walk in there and said, "Oh, you're watching Under Wraps. Okay, nice." And I just walk out of the room. But I've never until just now, I never actually seen it all the way through from start to finish.
I think this is probably my first time seeing it because I don't think I've seen it. I know this played as reruns during like the early to mid 2000s because this was before my time. This came out 2 or 3 years before I was born. So, but I've seen other older Disney Channel movies airing on Disney Channel. I don't think I've seen this one before. But I have heard a lot about this, and I actually seen bits and pieces of the 2021 remake. I put it on one time for my sister, and I watched a little bit with her, and I thought it was cute. But after watching this, yeah, I would say I'll hold on to my thoughts. But yeah, this is probably my first time watching it.
And likewise to me. I was already born by the time this came out, but barely. I would have been 2 when this was released, so do the math from that. 1997. But yeah, this was something that I also watched for the first time for the express purpose of talking about it for this podcast, because, well, it definitely seemed like something that wouldn't necessarily appeal to me all that much, but on the other hand, I've seen a few DCOMs before, and I can't say I've loved any of them, but there were definitely some that I had a good time watching, and I was glad I dedicated time to seeing them for myself, and I gotta say, I kind of felt that way about this one too. I was quite charmed by it, and I think a lot of it just had to do with the fact that, especially now with almost 30 years of hindsight as of our recording, there's a lot of very of the time period charm to it that I couldn't help but be endeared towards. I wonder how anyone else feels about that.
I mean, it was very charming, I will say that, especially because this was all during the 90s when I was practically in middle school at this point, and just seeing all the references was nice to see, but it was just a very charming movie. I mean, that's pretty much the best way I can say it's charming, it's nice, and it plays a little safe, but there is a little bit of horror element, which we'll get into.
Yeah, because the overall story formula of this would have already been a very well-established trope in kids' media at this particular point of time. Like, a lot of the plot is essentially the hiding the pet story, but again, we'll get into further detail later.
I actually surprisingly really enjoyed this movie. I had a blast with it. I will say there's like one or two things that I'm kind of meh with. And of course it's very of its time, but I really do appreciate this, especially that this was branded as the first DCOM. I really am able to see a lot of, like, compared to like the recent DCOMs that I've seen, there's a really huge difference with it. And I do kind of appreciate a lot about this movie, especially how much history this probably did carry for a lot of other like DCOMs. And I was a big Disney Channel kid growing up, mostly in the early to mid 2010s kind of, so I still watched a lot of older DCOMs around this time, but just not as much as I did. But it's cool to kind of venture out a little bit. I don't know, it was a cute good time.
Yeah, I thought it's okay. Like, I seem to remember thinking when I'd seen it before that, like, between this and the remake, each had its own pros and cons. Like, some stuff better in one than in the other. But as for this one, the one we are actually discussing, it's okay. Like, not amazing, not horrible. Some elements I wasn't nuts about, but it also did have its moments.
Oh, most definitely. Because, yeah, looking at this one for myself, especially as someone who did see quite a bit of kids-oriented stuff that was being produced in the mid to late 1990s, this definitely brought me back a little bit. I did not grow up watching this, and yet there was something oddly nostalgic about it from my perspective. Even though I didn't really grow up in the 1990s, I was exposed to a decent amount of media from that time, and it's definitely quite the time capsule. Even little things like the very cheesy on-purpose musical score was very charming to me, because I miss when films would shamelessly be bombastic with music. And also the child acting was delightfully hokey in a way that wasn't necessarily believable, but was also, in my opinion, very likable. And also the very self-serious way everyone approaches it. Like, there's not really any winking to the camera about how ridiculous the plot is or anything like that, and I find that kind of adds to the charm. I've noticed that's oddly common with films from this time period, in that they would both kind of lean into the silliness and yet would never at all be embarrassed about it. And I don't know, I find that very endearing, because I kind of wish that came back. I hope it is starting to make a comeback, that sort of attitude, personally, because that more than makes up for the plot. The plot's fairly basic, but my goodness, does it get executed incredibly well. So yeah, it is interesting that this isn't available on Disney Plus. And as for why this isn't on Disney Plus, well, there's no official reason that has been given as to why, but there are some theories that perhaps it had something to do with an exclusive contract that had been made by Disney many years ago that would have made it so that it would only be available to stream or view on demand during the month of October on Disney Now and Disney Channel On Demand. However, we don't have any official reason as to whether or not that actually is the case, and indeed it's not currently available for digital rental or purchase. We had to watch a DVD to come across this film. So yeah, it is interesting that this isn't available on Disney Plus. So, well, Rob, you were the last to speak. Do you have any idea as to why maybe this isn't on Disney Plus?
Okay, this probably wasn't my theory, but I wonder if it may have something to do with the Hallmark entertainment of it all. Because I think this was some sort of Hallmark Entertainment production, so maybe there's a rights issue there.
Yeah, co-production. That's quite possible, but Who knows? We don't have any further info on that. Sophie, do you have any theories?
I mean, I didn't even know this was co-produced by Hallmark. So now it makes a little bit, because I think my slight guess was, oh, maybe copyright reasons. I wasn't sure. I mean, maybe because I thought, oh, maybe it's just not up to Disney's brand, because this movie had a couple of questionable things a lot of the kids have said, kind of going for some more cynical humor. That was my slight guess. I don't think so, but yeah, it was worth the try for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Compared to Hocus Pocus, for instance, it doesn't seem too edgy, but who knows? Paul, what do you think? Do you have any idea why it's not on Disney Plus?
The only reason I can think of, well, besides the Hallmark thing, which I only just realized, as everyone else has pointed out, but I can maybe think that they were considering remaking the film, because we do know that the remake of Under Wraps is on Disney Plus, and I couldn't find when that was actually being kicked around for when it was developed, but that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe they don't want to confuse people. I mean, we've heard of, less stupid things on Disney executives' minds.
Most definitely. Intriguingly enough, I do find it quite bold in a way for the first DCOM to be an explicitly Halloween-themed thing, even if relatively lighthearted. Because, yeah, as Sophie mentioned, this movie is credited as the first official Disney Channel original movie, in that this is the first film to have officially been given that type of moniker. Obviously, there have been made-for-TV movies from Disney before, but this is the first to get that special title as what many of us Disney fans will shorten as the DCOM. And prior to this, any original movies that aired exclusively on the Disney Channel, and yes, it used to be called the Disney Channel, they were given the label of Disney Channel Premiere Films. In fact, this rebranding from Premiere Films to DCOMs, it coincided with the major rebranding of the channel in 1997. And that was when the channel transitioned from a premium cable service to basic cable. They dropped the from Disney Channel's name, new logo was created with the Mickey Ears TV set, and it began gearing itself more towards kids and teens.
Because, I do archiving with the channel, so, you could definitely see by late 90s how much the channel was starting to change, even though that by the 2000s, it was, at that point, it started getting regular commercials.
Well, yeah, because they were starting to need to try to compete with the other major networks that were gearing largely towards kids. This would have been around the time that Nickelodeon was more than just ruling the airwaves for kid-friendly TV shows, but was starting to set up programming blocks for certain age groups, even amongst kids like Nick Jr., and so it was around this time that Disney launched Playhouse Disney and that kind of thing. And this would have also been around the time that PBS was starting to do more with less, shall we say, in terms of their programming choices. Like, I don't know if any of you watched any of the wildlife education shows with the Kratt brothers, but this would have been around the time they started making their stuff.
Definitely is a boomafoo guy here.
Yes, honestly.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, for some reason, our basic cable package, we didn't really get it, or maybe it was because we had satellite at that point. I don't remember the Disney Channel actually being on my network until like after 2000 easily, because I remember my sister was in school at that point.
Yeah, it was a similar story on my part.
Yeah, not just the fact that we used to be a premium channel too, but also this movie kind of marks the style that Disney Channel was trying to go, or at least. I noticed that, like, the one thing I did appreciate is just it really did evolve a lot what Disney Channel was going to be, because I really am very invested of what Disney Channel used to be. I know there's a YouTuber named Yesterworld Entertainment that made an entire history video about Disney Channel I was so invested in.
I follow that channel too. It's a fun channel.
Yeah, I was a big Disney Channel kid growing up, so I was very invested to hear what Disney Channel used to be when it first launched. And you can tell even at that time, they weren't really sure what they were trying to be. And then when this movie premiered, you can really tell they were really trying to find the demographic that they were looking for. Mostly preteen kids or like teenagers kind of, and that's especially in the mid-2000s, they really found where they were going to be. And you really know that. Even though I was technically still really little at the time, especially when Disney Channel became very popular, because now all of that Disney Channel stuff is very nostalgic now, from shows like Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, the Lizzie McGuire series. All of those are very hugely nostalgic since they remind us of how Disney Channel was really like at that point. And I can kind of appreciate that. I mean, now it's like you really can tell that now they don't even know what they want to market anymore. I think it's always feeling like more for preteen, I guess, girls maybe. I'm not trying to like just be one gender, but I feel like that's what they were always trying to do.
I will say, as someone who was a preteen during the heyday of many of the shows on Disney Channel you just mentioned, even back then, I had the feeling that seemed to be primarily the attempted appeal beyond kids in terms of whom they were targeting already. But again, maybe that was just my preteen insecurity surrounding gender at the time talking, who knows?
Because I remember when I was growing up, it was basically just Nickelodeon at that point. But when she was, a preteen and stuff, at least more than half the time, it was the Disney Channel that was on. Even though that she watched some shows on Nickelodeon, it was just Disney Channel. So I can definitely see Disney Channel being skewed to younger preteen girls.
It's quite possible, but again, that seems to be more anecdotal than official data. We don't have any official data in front of us to show if that's entirely true, but it wouldn't surprise me if true.
Coming from someone who was a preteen watching Disney Channel, mostly not during its heyday, I didn't get really into Disney Channel until the early to mid 2010s, which I was already like 12 or 13 at the time. So yeah, I'm more nostalgic for that than the actual nostalgia of Disney Channel. So obviously, looking back, it's the kind of the cringe Disney Channel a lot of people don't really like, but it's nostalgic to me, so...
Hey, no judgment there. I mean, I can safely say watching this movie that I thought it was kind of dumb and predictable, but I also still had a good time watching it. I couldn't help but be charmed by it. That's definitely the feeling. But either way, we took the time to watch this. We took the time to watch this 1997 made-for-TV movie, and we are going to start talking about it. So... we start things off with a charmingly cheesy stop-motion animated opening credits scene where the hands of a mummy are pulling away sheets of papyrus and strips of bandage to reveal the names of the cast and crew. It's got a very bombastic musical score in a way that your average made-for-TV movie even doesn't normally have anymore. And like I said earlier, I kind of miss when films were not ashamed to be silly with the score, because this was a fun score in my opinion. I don't know, did anybody else notice anything about the score? Because I thought it was fun.
Oh no, I actually really did love the opening music. I actually went back to listen to it at the beginning because I was like, oh, this is actually really good.
Yeah, and it wasn't lazy goofy at all. Like, it actually had some fun with playing around with wonky time signatures, and it flowed nicely with the stop motion animation of the opening credits. I mean, that's something I can never knock. Stop motion animation is something that, even when it's obviously very cheap and kind of jank, as it admittedly was for these opening credits, I still can't not love it because I just inherently find it so charming. I am such a fan of stop motion animation as a medium. I just find it a very charming thing.
Oh yeah. In fact, I actually went back and watched it twice because the stop motion was just so charming. And, yeah, as you said, it was kind of janky, but that's kind of the charm sometimes with stop motion. And, the music was great and the stop motion was just chef's kiss.
Oh, absolutely. Even though it was just as simple as it looked like just like a little plastic spider and snake that they just moved frame by frame to make it kind of look like they were sliding across the surface. But, it still was charming because a part of it is just also, it's interesting how much we seem to associate stop motion culturally with Halloween. And I don't think it's just because of The Nightmare Before Christmas either. Like, there's just something about the way stop motion tends to look that tends to ignite our fondness for the beauty of the grotesque, because stop motion's often really good at that in ways that other mediums of animation can't quite match.
No, I will agree with that. I'm coming from a person who loves stop motion in general. And yeah, I think that's the best part of describing this movie. It's charming and honestly a little bit nostalgic, despite the fact that I've never seen this before. Actually, going back to the music, it kind of reminded me of the Halloween Town theme for some reason, which is funny. Another DCOM movie around that time, which was also associated with Halloween, which, real quick though, I've noticed that early DCOM movies really liked using Halloween as the main setting. Or is that just me?
Oh yeah, I mean, seasonality is an excellent way to maximize syndication odds for your product, for one, so I'm sure that factored into it. Why do you think almost every Hallmark original movie is some sort of Christmas-themed thing?
Yeah.
Funny, we're going back to the Hallmark connection again.
Indeed. Yep, festivities, great for marketing.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that they ran this whole thing for years on the Disney Channel. You know, the fact that they just kept having this movie over and over again, even though that they, at that point, had made other Halloween movies, just shows how good this is, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I don't know if this is something I'm going to go out of my way to rewatch anytime soon by any means, but I certainly didn't feel like my time was wasted by, some cringy bore or whatever, anything like that. And that counts for a lot, quite frankly, because often when you hear about DCOMs that for whatever reason are not available on Disney Plus, you often think, oh, maybe it was too mediocre to be worth it. But honestly, that wasn't the feeling I got out of this by any means.
Yeah, this was definitely something like, I keep going back to my sister because it's just easier that way. But because I remember seeing this on when my sister used to watch it, because even though I was in my 20s at that point, she was still 8 or 9 years old. We're that far apart with each other in age. And this is definitely something that if I wanted to, this would be something I would definitely just sit down and watch if it was on. If I actually sat down and watched this, I would probably enjoy it. In fact, I was actually kind of enjoying the whole movie because I started taking notes about it. And I think like 2/3 of the way, I just stopped kind of taking the notes because I was really more interested in watching the film than actually taking notes at that point.
Hey, fair enough. I would be in a similar position if I saw this being broadcasted, and that opening title sequence then transitions into a very cheesy setup around a dinner table and a child being afraid of a monster, and the parents, especially the dad, is really, really dismissive about it, and it turns out there actually was a monster trying to break into the house, and we get a delightful horror movie setup of the dad being grabbed by the head and being shoved towards a knife because he just happened to drop a kitchen knife hilt first into the sink disposal, so he's about to get impaled in the face, and it's delightful. We're expecting a really horrifyingly gory outcome, and it turns out it's just a cheesy, scary movie these two boys are watching together.
The very first portion of the movie where we see Warthead, that was honestly not bad at all for a costume. I mean, it is referencing, cheesy horror movies, but for cheesy horror movie references, it wasn't bad at all.
Oh, yeah.
That opening in general, actually, was kind of dark for a DCOM.
It really was. The sink disposal impalement because the kitchen knife went hilt first into the sink disposal. Oh boy.
That was incredible. That is incredible creativeness there.
And we can probably imply that the guy got stabbed in it, but we didn't see it because it was off screen when it happened. But yeah, I was just really impressed by that.
I gotta admit, that part of why I felt like I was in for a good time right off the bat is, for one, they parody the types of pulpy horror movies that kids around this time would probably be into, and you get the subversion of, oh, it is just a movie that these kids are watching, and then we're in for an almost equally goofy movie in response. And that's when we properly get started with introducing the character dynamic. These two boys named Marshall and Gilbert are two of our trilogy of characters who will be the focal points of the story. And we're clearly setting up a dynamic that was very popular around the time period, because you have, the cool kid who's got like an inner soft side but doesn't really want to admit it. And you have the geeky kid who has a very bizarre family thing going on. And we're going to discuss that later. It's kind of Barton Millhouse, but it's definitely got its own flavoring, and I gotta admit, right off the bat, I immediately was just like, I adore Gilbert.
Well, why wouldn't you? I'm played by the most charming of the three child actors in the movie. Let's go free the animals.
If only he sounded like that at age 12, right?
I don't know. I just thought the kids were fine. I mean, very interesting how they wrote all three of them, basically. I kind of forgot about the name of the kid character, except for Marshall for some reason. I guess I kind of took Gilbert as like the stereotypical geek kid, but there's something about the fact that they wrote him with a lot of mysterious stuff. So honestly, I kind of appreciate that they didn't make him full stereotype, like the geeky, weird kid.
They kind of go back and forth on just trying to emphasize the weirdness with him, because at first we just get what seem like queer coding moments of like, oh man, why don't you watch more happy movies like The Sound of Music? And he's like, you're weird. It's like, how dare you? Sound of Music's a masterpiece. Wait, am I Gilbert? Oh no.
Yeah, I found that line kind of funny where he's like, yeah, sure, it's got Nazis in it, but if it was about dancing Nazis, that would be fine. He'd let me know more funner, actually.
You should consult with Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks found a way to make it happen. Or Taika Waititi with Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
And then he further endeared himself to me when they do the classic setup of, being afraid of the old man in the creepy house. There was a kid who, trashed his mailbox, and then he was never seen again. Yeah, that's because he moved to Toronto. Oh, really? he never writes. Because, yeah, we set up that there's a spooky house in the neighborhood with an old guy who none of the kids want to get anywhere close. The old man's name is Mr. Kubat. Now, that's one heck of a name. And he's sort of our imposing figure for the story, seemingly.
The old man is so evil that he doesn't even pay the kid his newspaper money. So they have to go to the house because Marshall wants Gilbert to stand up to him, be like, you should get your $2 back. Or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, we establish this guy, how frightening he is to these boys, where one of them tries to be like, man, you gotta assert yourself, Gilbert. You gotta stand up to bullies, that kind of thing. And then both of them are frightened off by the guy when he sets his dog loose on them. Yeah, I guess it does somewhat foreshadow just how crazy greedy he is with the ultimate villain plot that we get towards the end, but it's a bit of an escalation, for sure. So, of course, naturally, the two of them are running away as a result of that, and we end up at Marshall's house in the process. And once we're there, we find out that Marshall's parents, they went through a divorce, and we meet Marshall's mom's new boyfriend. His name is Ted, and he's played by Bill Fagerbakke. And he's sort of a potential stepdad-to-be.
One of the storylines I actually really respect for this movie. It's the storyline with Marshall's entire conflict, because they kind of bring this up a couple of times, which I would have found it a little jarring to come from a really goofy 90s kids movie, to have this really sad, melancholy parts about a kid facing his mom moving on from his dad and stuff like that. But I actually really do like how they handled with Marshall trying to accept his mom's new boyfriend, because you could tell he's still a little upset about the entirety of his parents' separation.
Very much in the denial phase of grief.
Yeah, no. And I really did respect how they did it, because they didn't make it like he needed to forcefully move on and accept the man. It's just like, no, on his own time. And the mom didn't force it at all either. All she just said was just like, hey, he's really nice, and me and your dad have been apart for quite some time now, and you could tell he's okay. He's like, yeah, I know. But it's just like, he just doesn't know how to feel about it. And they're kind of doing a Captain Hook and Mr. Darling thing from Peter Pan, kind of. He only shows up once or twice, but they're kind of going for that, which I actually really do appreciate. But yeah, I actually really liked that too. A little nice detail.
Fun symbolism, honestly, in its own way. We also established Marshall's room, which is full of horror paraphernalia, so it's not just any little boy's room, it's just full of knickknacks and whatnots of a very specific hyperfixation this kid has, and it's delightful. Honestly, that was quite a fun little addition right there, because yeah, of course a kid who decks out his room with this type of apparel would be quicker to think, oh, this mummy didn't hurt me, he actually helped, maybe he's friendly. But yeah, that room decor, I'll give it credit for being unique, I suppose, in the sense that, your stereotypical boys' room setup in a film like this would just be decked out in just a whole assortment of just stuff of many different categories that were just assumed to be things boys are into. No, it's clear that this kid has a hyperfixation, and that's a lot more fun to me. I relate to someone who was a kid on the spectrum, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I give it credit. It's kind of original with a generic children's bedroom in a movie, especially in a DCOM. I kind of like how no one really judges Marshall for liking monster. Well, a couple of times the girl character, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, honestly.
Oh, Amy.
Oh, Amy, thank you. Yeah, they kind of do have a moments where they're you're kind of obsessed with monster movies a little bit, but not to a point where his mom's concerned or anything. Everyone's kind of seeming okay without it. I kind of enjoyed that, because I feel like in another movie it would just turn into just we're really concerned about you. You better stop getting into this monster movie phase and stuff like that. No, it's just he enjoys something he loves, and I respect that. And yeah, I can relate to the hyperfixation thing, honestly.
Yeah. And speaking of Amy, we meet her in the next scene when Marshall and Gilbert are having lunch with her at Roosevelt Junior High School. And from there, we also establish the friendship dynamic between these two boys and this girl named Amy, and that rounds out our trilogy of kid characters. She reveals that Mr. Kubat had died of a heart attack, apparently, and this gives the kids an idea on a way to basically be little shits. So essentially the plan is for the three of them to take a look and see what's inside, because rumor has it there's a coffin in the basement of Mr. Kubat's house. Yeah, Amy herself is just such a fun character, and her snarkiness means she has almost all the best lines in the movie.
So, have you ever seen a dead person? Oh yeah, I've got them lying around my basement in huge stacks. You know, you should come over sometime. We use them to build big forts.
So, what are we gonna call him? How about Harold?
Harold?
I don't know, he looks like my Uncle Harold.
Jeez, your aunt must be ready to open a vein.
The high priest swore a vow of celibacy. What's celibacy?
No chicks.
I can never do that.
You'll get used to it.
Like, this movie has a lot of cynical humor. There's just moments where the kids do say a lot of, like, things I'm just like, whoa, okay. But I kind of respect that because I'm like, I actually do like how they wrote the kids as kids. Because I feel like kids, especially in this age, will say stuff like that, honestly. Like, I prefer kids to be like these imperfect kids to say, like, really cynical, vulgar stuff instead of being, like, squeaky clean 90s kind of kids writing, honestly. So I kind of like that, I guess. Sometimes I got a little annoyed on how some of the kids reacted with each other, which I'll probably talk about with the character Amy for a minute. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Amy's quite cynical.
I did like, the kids' interactions with each other. I mean, we already talked about how they were talking about each other, especially with Gilbert, where they always constantly put him down. But that felt more like just kids ripping on each other, ribbing each other. It just felt like there wasn't any real malice behind the words. It was more like a teasing that kids do with each other.
There was one line that I was a little, like, a bit weird to say about a kid.
If I were you, I'd just worry about someone seeing me in those pajamas. Did they come like that, or do you have to cut out the feet?
Don't tell me you don't have some embarrassing pajamas at home.
I don't wear pajamas. I sleep in the nude. Oh, geez, Gilbert. Grow up.
And I was just finding that a little weird.
That's one of two rather off-color comments from Amy.
Or at least unexpected in, say, a place like this.
Definitely.
Amy herself was an interesting character because they could have done the generic 90s girl character in the group, but honestly, I love how she was actually just written as a real kid. Couple of times I was like, okay, you can shut up now, because she was getting on my nerves a little bit because she was a bit too, like, mean-spirited, but I actually do like the moment where she actually was being really supportive with Marshall because she's like, you can talk to me about this stuff, because she knows that the stuff with Marshall's mom's boyfriend is bothering him a bit. I liked that.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to get more nuanced writing like this, especially in a made-for-TV movie aimed at kids, let alone one from Disney. So, seeing it broken away from somewhat, yeah, it is quite refreshing in its own way, I will say. So that evening, Marshall and Amy go to pick up Gilbert at his house, but Gilbert tries to make the excuse that his mom won't let him leave.
And he had to call his mom, but then apparently his mom wanted to be called some different name or something, like she's going through a phase or something. Like, that's his reply. She's going through a phase right now.
Oh yeah, she wanted to be called Esmeralda. I remember that. She wanted to be called Esmeralda, and I was just immediately thinking, oh, please don't tell me she's dressing up like a stereotypical Romani.
Oh no.
Yeah, they said she was role-playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had me a little concerned.
And also, they bring up that Gilbert's mom has a collection full of creepy Victorian dolls, and she loves to play with them and have tea parties with them.
Yeah, and just to throw my hat in the ring on the whole thing with Gilbert's mom's dolls, you know what? Bringing them to the movies, if they're, like, small or something, like you could bring them in a purse, no judgment there. Admittedly, buying them popcorn, that is a little bit of a stretch.
Once! She did that once!
Yeah, I was hoping that at some point with Bruce, when they were first talking with him, it would turn out like, oh, I gotta see this someone who calls herself Esmeralda, like have their stories intersect somehow.
So from the rumor of the coffin being in the basement, they decide to be kids, essentially, and break in and see for themselves. And not only is it a coffin, it is an Egyptian-style sarcophagus, and in their break-in attempts it gets disturbed and pried open, which enables the moonlight to shine on top of the mummy inside, which brings the mummy to life.
There's a line Gilbert has something when he doesn't want to go in the house, and he's like, maybe I'm just, I don't know, human? That's a line that needs to be a meme more often.
Seriously. Honestly, Gilbert did have a lot of great moments.
No, he did.
Yeah, also there's a point where they're like, whoa, we could have used the key to go inside instead of breaking in, and they respond, what fun is it to use a key? And Squaresoft took that as a challenge.
I face too much loss and too many convoluted gameplay rules, Xehanort. You want my Keyblade? Take it from my cold, dead hands.
Oh, I saw that moment, and I said out loud in response, oh, you little shits. And from there, the hijinks can ensue. And the reason why they go back is because, of course, in the chaos of the break-in, Gilbert lost his glasses, and so they end up going back to retrieve them. And it turns out that the mummy is not actually all that much. monstrous, he's actually quite friendly and goes out of his way to give the glasses back. And that's when things start to be revealed that this is going to be a much more wholesome film than just a straight-up horror flick, which is nice. Yeah, we haven't talked about our mummy yet in this particular feature. Let's start talking about Harold, because, oh my goodness, I was prepared to be annoyed, and instead I found him incredibly adorable.
He is absolutely the best part of the movie, and obviously for obvious reasons, because the one fact I knew about this movie, and I was correct by it, is that the mummy himself is played by none other Bill
Fagerbaki.
Okay, thank you. I can never pronounce his name. Apologies. AKA known as Patrick Star from SpongeBob. So, I mean, that was the biggest one to me. And obviously, you cannot unhear it because I hear Patrick Star the entire time he's making the mummy noises.
Same.
Actually, no. If anybody have seen the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob, I think of the Caveman special where he was playing a caveman. That's basically the same sounds he's making.
Yes.
That was one of my notes, is that Harold walked so Cavey could run.
Exactly.
You see, kids, I found him frozen in a block of ice, and then I spent 3 days thawing him out with my mom's hairdryer. I called him Cavey. And he jumped in. It's okay, Cavey.
And Patar. Because, yeah, every time I heard his grunting, I just heard Patrick.
Yeah, no, and he was fantastic as Harold, by the way. I honestly think doing both really good voice acting and also really good character, like, over-the-top acting in a way, because I'm taking acting class, and I actually learned about a lot of over-the-top acting with, like, using your body with big, exaggerated, like, body movements and stuff like that, and honestly, I can kind of appreciate it here with his character.
Yeah, he does nicely.
Yeah, it's essentially silent movie acting, right?
Yeah, basically.
I will say that I'm glad that I've heard nothing but nice things about Bill Fagerbaki, the person. Like, apparently he is a real sweetheart from every bit of evidence that I've heard about him as a person.
That is very good to hear.
Like, apparently encounters with him at cons are consistently just delightful, and I'm impressed at how he never seems to tire of any excuse to do the "No, this is Patrick" bit. Like, that's impressive, because you know that for lots of people who are famous for a certain bit, you just know that after a while it's just like, man, am I really gonna have to do this again? And I appreciate those who've, found a way to keep making it fun for themselves.
Yeah, I will say, because I know Patrick Star is his most, like, famous thing people recognize him for, but I do enjoy that he seems like a pretty, like, decent guy, and you could tell how much he really enjoys being that character, especially being that voice for him for decades, too. So I do enjoy how much he goes with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's been established at this point for years that that's his default goofy voice anyway. And also, on the subject of Bill Fagerbaki being famous for playing Patrick Star, it's just interesting to get yet another reminder of, man, his typecast seems to have always been lovable doofuses, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually interesting. This came out, 2 years before SpongeBob premiered, and this is at the time where he was still working with Disney, actually, because he did other voice work for Disney, considering he did the voice for Broadway for the show Gargoyles.
Afraid? Me? Huh. Why, all of nature trembles at my passing.
I can see why.
And he, along with Corey Burton, was one of the 2 guards who worked for Judge Frollo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Captain! Oh! At your service, sir!
But yeah, they cut out the part in Hunchback where he says, "I'll cut off your hunchback and nail it to my door!"
But yeah, I don't know, he was the best part, and I did not find him annoying in the slightest. Yeah, I actually really found him very charming as the mummy, and I don't know, he was really nice.
Yeah, I was expecting to be annoyed by the sheer unbelievable silliness of it all, and instead I couldn't help but find that unbelievable silliness part of the charm. And it was at this point when I was watching this film that this was not only reminding me of a lot of previous kids' movies, but even a few that would come in the years to follow in terms of some setups for children's media. Like, the inciting incident basically is not that dissimilar to my mind from the movie Monster House, if any of you saw that. If you know, you know.
Yes, I grew up with that. I actually used to be, I have a kind of deep history with Monster House because I was originally really scared of it as a kid. Before it even came out, I remembered seeing the trailers and the bumpers, and I always ran to the other room. I couldn't. And then my parents actually bought the movie on DVD, and I ended up really enjoying it though. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Honestly, neither do I, if nothing else on the strength of the mocap animation in that one. But getting back on topic, yeah, the inciting incident is eerily similar in the sense that we have this frightening old man who lives in the neighborhood. The kids don't want to go near his place, and then he dies unexpectedly. But it turns out, never mind, it was all a conspiracy. In this case, it wasn't a false alarm like in Monster House. It's a straight up conspiracy plot because we're also mixing in some E.T., and the film literally references that.
Well, we can't turn him in. We'll take him somewhere and experiment on him. What do you mean, experiment? Cut him open, dissect him, pack him in formaldehyde. They will? Of course. Didn't you see E.T.?
I can't help but wonder if that E.T. reference in particular was put there on purpose because they were worried that people would just start accusing it of being an E.T. ripoff, because that was a pretty funny line to me. I don't know about you.
I mean, by that point, E.T. was, what, over 10 years old at that point?
It was like 15 at that point.
Oh, 15, yeah. I forget when E.T. came out half the time.
Yeah, 1982.
I should remember that. It's my birth year.
Yeah, I guess E.T. could have been having his quinceañera.
Yeah, but by that point, we already had a bunch of other E.T. ripoffs. Henry and the Harrisons. We had, what is it? Mac and Me is another one. It was a great reference, but I just feel like we had already way past the point of E.T. ripoffs, and now we're just saying, it's E.T.
Yeah, literally, it's just like, oh, the government's going to do experiments on this mummy if we let people know about it. It's definitely quite amusing that we're sort of combining these two types of plots together in this particular way when it feels so much less sensical than it did in E.T. It just more feels like they just needed the formula, and so we're doing it just because, but man.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. E.T. was clearly the reincarnation of Al Capone.
Where does that conspiracy come from, I wonder?
Some say they know, but they don't really know.
Man. Oh, and it's in this scene where we meet the mummy that we get a glimpse of the costume and makeup they did to create him. A mummy makeup that apparently took a couple of hours to put on, so...
I will say that I was actually kind of impressed with the actual makeup of Harold, and I thought it was really good, especially considering the fact that you could kind of tell it looked a little bit rubbery, but, for DCOM, his whole outfit wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah, like, we're talking this is a made-for-TV movie from the late 90s. Those things did not exactly have what you'd call particularly big budgets, so the fact that it looks as decent as it does is pretty impressive. Like, I was waiting for a shot where I would be able to see Bill Fagerbakk's actual mouth behind the prosthetic teeth, and it never happened.
No, yeah, I really did like the way he looked too. There was times where I'm just like, it was a very unrecognizable to see him in the costume too sometimes.
Oh yeah, like I've seen enough pictures to know what he really looks like, so getting a close enough look at the eyes and the eyebrows, I could figure out that it was him even before I started hearing his voice.
And you see what he really looks like in the movie already.
Yeah.
Exactly, so that helped, but even so, yeah, it was convincing enough that I could buy that it was a different character. And I guess now would be a good time as any to give a shout out to the mummy costume designer for this movie, Ted Haynes, who at the time was working for K&B Effects Group. K&B is probably best known for their many collaborations with Quentin Tarantino, as well as The Walking Dead, and their Academy Award-winning makeup and hairstyling work on the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie. And Ted Haynes has done special makeup, costume, and creature effects for films like The Lawnmower Man and the 1994 live-action Jungle Book movie and Scream, the second live-action Scooby-Doo movie, The Village, the 2011 Muppets movie, and even the first two James Cameron Avatar movies. So,
cool.
I gotta say, this guy's got a pretty stacked resume as far as I'm concerned. It's fun to know that, they can be involved on relatively small scale projects like this, whether it's for the fun or if they offered a good paycheck or whatever. I mean, clearly the designer involved had a lot of fun designing this mummy. It's a fun design.
Mm-hmm.
So the three kids decide to leave the mummy at Mr. Kubat's house, and we cut to the next day, where they're all standing around their lockers deciding what to do about the mummy.
I did like this one part. It was kind of funny where one kid was going up to her and he was trying to ask her out.
Oh, yes. In the middle of this scene at the school, they just get interrupted by this random boy who wants to ask Amy out. You're right.
Hey, Amy. I'm busy, Todd. Well, I know, but I was just... Todd? Well, I was just wondering if Don't make me hurt you, Todd. Oh, okay. Sorry. He's got a big crush on me, but it's definitely not going to happen.
Like, I don't know, I found that funny.
That was pretty good, honestly. That was honestly a pretty good way to just sort of set up the dynamic right there in terms of how she behaves with the other kids, what her personality is. That was a good establishment.
Yeah, I do agree that her sort of cynical tone was a bit much for me. Like, at a point, I'm like, okay, reel it in a bit. Or like, one of my notes is, Amy's too cool for everything. I'm trying to avoid, like, always going back to the Escape from Walt Disney episode, so the one I'll allow myself is out. I remember someone in their comment about, like, watching the remake and me like, okay, these kids aren't just the archetypal decom snarky kids.
I appreciated the lack of snarky kidness about them. There were quite a few moments where it could have happened, like where Amy was introduced to the boys, for example, and they just were like, oh, hey, you're our friend now, cool.
That was a
there
good
were a lot of little moments like that where I thought it was nice. Like, it could have been like, hello, maybe Tony, you and I are just children of the 80s. I just keep expecting them to be like, a girl in our group.
Yeah,
and they just kind of were like, oh, hey, how you doing?
And then my observation is you get to this movie and that's what Amy is in this version. A lot of snark. I can certainly respect the whole not being girl is girl thing, or maybe this could have been subversive for its time. I feel like in practice, yeah, they could have reeled it in a bit. Maybe a little less mean-spirited and...
Yeah. I'm sure for the time that was considered a little bit subversive, though, at least certainly for a made-for-TV kids movie at this particular time period, though I wonder about that, because this was also the same year as Hercules from Disney's main animation studio, and of course, that was noteworthy for having one of the more snarkier female leads. But, you know, for one, she's an adult, so it makes a little bit more sense she'd be that jaded. But for another, she was just a lot more likable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we stand for Meg, especially voiced by Susan Egan.
Agreed. I adore Susan Egan. She's actually liked a couple of my comments before on Facebook, oddly enough.
Oh, wow.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that was a real lovely surprise. I think we can blame me having a Steven Universe hyperfixation during pandemic lockdowns for leading me down that path.
Oh, big Steven Universe fan over here, so.
There you go, so you understand. Oh, and it should be mentioned the reason why Amy doesn't want to go out with Todd, it's because, quote, he saw that Olsen Twins movie twice. How can you respect a guy like that? You know, honestly, same. I understand.
We can name an Olsen Twins movie, but we can't say what movie it was.
Yeah, there's a couple possibilities of what that could have been. Again, that's a trend of 90s pop culture I missed, but it's one that I've heard evoked from several of my elder millennial friends.
Oh, yeah. I was actually thinking immediately of It Takes Two, just because they came out around the same time, if I remember correctly.
This Thanksgiving, when it comes to comedy, It Takes Two.
Identical strangers?
Kirstie Alley, Steve Guttenberg, the Olsen Twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley.
I like Mary-Kate. I like Ashley.
It Takes Two. Rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you.
And I remember I watched that to death, mostly because I was stuck during a blizzard in the house, and it was the only thing I could watch.
Man, you experienced that, but I'm the Canadian here, and I never know what that was like.
You see, the Olsen Twins caused the blizzard, so you'd have no choice but to watch it.
I didn't know they controlled the weather. According to Lilo, it was Pudge the fish who controls the weather.
So which Olsen twin is heat miser and which one is snow miser?
There's only one Olsen twin. They just move really, really fast.
Okay, yeah, right. That checks out.
Well, because of course, originally it was the whole thing about she was literally playing the baby on Full House, and it's industry standard if you have a baby character to have twins or triplets. So that way you're not forcing a baby to be on camera all the time for their inconvenience and all that.
And that's the real secret fact of this movie. They had twins playing the mummy.
Oh, wow. If Bill Figer Bucky has a twin, can I meet him?
Yeah, because he plays two characters, so technically.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Oh man. So Marshall realizes he knows a guy who might know more than them about mummies, so after school they head to the Forbidden World bookstore to meet up with Marshall's friend Bruce.
Oh yeah, that guy. I thought he was like one of those, like the stereotypical like older nerd adult who knows all the knowledge that they have, basically kind of trope. But like I thought he was kind of funny. I think there's one line that actually got a good laugh out of me. But apparently, because he was asking, "Hey, why do you guys want to learn about mummies all the time?" And I think one of the kids, Marshall, was like, "Oh, we're learning it at school that they're teaching us about mummies." And he's like, "Mummies, huh?" And I thought the school system sucked.
Yeah, he had some good lines. Fun fact, that's the same actor who played the Santa Claus in the first Home Alone movie, whom Macaulay Culkin immediately calls out as not being the real Santa Claus. So,
Yo, I thought he looked familiar.
yeah, same guy.
And didn't he replace Jeffrey Tambor in Wonder Park?
That is correct. That was Kit Hudson Campbell.
I'm ready to wake up now. Ready to wake up.
You are awake, Boomer.
I'm awake? I mean, I'm awake!
But yeah, and speaking of him, that's another Monster House similarity. He reminded me of the guy at the arcade game.
Yeah, John Heater's character in that movie.
In my travels to the video store and comic book conventions, I've seen many strange and wondrous things. And I've heard tell of man-made structures becoming possessed by a human soul, so that the spirit becomes merged with wood and brick, creating a rare form of monster known as Domus Mactibilis.
Yeah, very similar vibes for sure. Right down to the, it's kind of weird that he seems to only be interacting with kids.
Yeah.
Do you not have any friends around your age? Poor guy.
He even comments on that later in the film.
So have you got a plan?
None whatsoever.
Why does that not surprise me?
I gotta start hanging out with people my own age.
At least he's self-aware.
I mean, apparently Marshall is one of his biggest clients, considering all the stuff that he had in his room. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, his only client, apparently.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm looking at his room, and my first notes is like, where does he get all those wonderful toys? And then apparently it's answered.
Right, yeah. So they learn from Bruce that if a mummy is awakened by the full moon, it will turn to dust unless it returns to its sarcophagus by midnight of that most evil of nights, which in our case is Halloween, and which also conveniently is the following night. That's when the kids go back to Mr. Kubat's house, only to find out that all of his stuff's been taken away, and the mummy is nowhere to be found. And we get a delightful sequence of the mummy walking around town by himself and getting up to shenanigans, like the bit at the Dairy Freeze, my bad, at the fast food place, and somehow his grunts are interpreted as a perfectly cohesive order to the person at the mic. Real goofaloofa.
Yeah, that scene was like wacky to me because I watching that scene, the obvious Dairy Queen parody, which I used to work at Dairy Queen, so I just found that really funny itself. And also, like the lady who was taking her order, she was really a bit too peppy working there.
Oh yeah, there's customer service voice, and then there was whatever vocal mannerisms she was putting on.
Okay, so that's 2 double cheeseburgers, a small fry, and an orange soda. Oh, okay, sorry. A jumbo orange soda. Okay, that will be $3.74. Please come around.
Like, she was too happy about it. Also, for some reason, I know this might sound weird, but she was reminding me too much of, like, Ed from, Good Burger. For some reason, she kept reminding me of that. I don't know why.
Well, this movie is also from 1997 with a stop-motion opening credit scene.
Yep, that checks out.
I think it was just her first week. Don't worry, she'll be broken in a little bit later.
The world of retail.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even if I thought the drive-thru bit could have been a bit stronger, I still can't say no to drive-thru shenanigans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a little funny shenanigan part too, because when he was at the park, there was a moment where one kid is like, Mommy, look, this guy's really ugly. And it's like, she's like, don't say that to people. And he's like right behind her, and he's just like, but no, he's really ugly.
Honey, it's not polite to stare. Now, I told you, some people are just born special.
Well, this guy's really special.
Oh my god.
Your mummy's so ugly.
This film was not without funny moments, by any means. The hospital shenanigans similarly with, oh my god, it's a burn victim and it looks like he tried to do it himself.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, everything about the mummy from the drive-through section all the way to the hospital until they started shocking him, mostly because my mother was a nurse, so I know that is just doesn't work like that. They don't do it like that.
It's movie defibrillator use, Paul. It's totally different.
Yeah, I know. Movie defibrillation is totally different.
Yeah, they just left him with the Mrs. Doubtfire burn marks.
First time as a mummy and getting hot flashes.
Yeah, I found it really funny.
Yeah, at the hospital when they handed in the forms, I was hoping he would try to eat them.
But that's zombies, Rob. And specifically, they eat your brains.
I will like the fact that he at least tried to start filling them out.
Okay, that is really funny when you put it that way.
I mean, he's looking at him like, ooh, ooh. And then it looks like he was trying to fill it out until the woman immediately turned around and like, oh my god, you're a burn victim.
Which took somebody 5 minutes to realize there's a walking mummy in the hospital, which I found that incredibly funny. He's just walking around the town. Nobody's questioning anything, and I get it, it's Halloween, everyone's in costume, but like, I feel like someone would be like looking at this guy in the hospital, be like, oh, what? Wow, you look a bit different. Like,
I guess part of the plausible deniability is that the actual costume involved actual hospital bandages. They just coffee stained them to look all old and gross.
Well, with all this talk of him being a burn victim, I really want to see his entry in Regina's burn book.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
But yeah, that was definitely an interesting little bit of shenanigans that definitely made me chuckle a decent amount of the time. So as the mummy is getting chased by a couple of nurses, our trio of kids thankfully find him and hide him, and they're like, where have you been this whole time? And meanwhile, the mummy can only grunt and pantomime. Though, and again, even the payoff to it all I thought was kind of amusing, and I was worried that that was when it was finally going to wear out its welcome, when he's just miming everything to Marshall, and of course you don't really know what he's saying, and he's like, you know what, somehow I understood everything he tried to say to me.
I found that so funny, actually, because I was about to bring that part up, because I actually found that really funny.
I guess Marshall speaks mummy. Confirmed. So yeah, the kids take the mummy back to Marshall's house, and they hide him in Marshall's bedroom, but they make a ton of noise taking him up there, so Marshall's mom comes barging into his room. During that scene, there's a quick reference to the series Hee Haw by Amy, after being forced to clog dance because, ooh, the parent can't know, so we gotta come up with some story, and somehow the mother is not remotely disturbed by the fact that this mummy figurine changes poses every time she turns around to look.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like she would. There was a moment where she kind of like was like, wait a minute, and then she just kind of left.
I mean, to be honest, I would have almost think, oh, it's a mechanical one. It does different poses.
Well, yeah.
I was thinking maybe that's what's going through her head, but also a part of me is just like, man, what are the odds? And it's in this scene that they decide to name the mummy Harold after Marshall's uncle Harold, and we see the beginning of a recurring gag in which Harold hears the song All By Myself by Eric Carmen on the radio and becomes obsessed with it. But they couldn't afford the actual song by Eric Carmen, so we just had a friend of this movie's composer sing a cover of it instead.
Yeah, obviously they didn't have the rights for it, so they had to have like someone do a cover of it. At first I thought it was a legitimate song, but then I'm like, no, actually it's not.
Yeah.
I'm probably not alone in this world where my main experience with that song is Donkey singing it in one of the Shrek movies.
Yes.
Yep.
All by myself. Don't wanna be all by myself anymore.
Amigo, we are off to the Kit Kat Club. Come on, join us.
Oh, thanks, compadre. I'm just not in the mood.
We will cheer you up. Find you a nice burro.
Oh, yes. I love that bit.
Yep.
I mean, Shrek 2 is the best Shrek movie, in my opinion. I adore it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, no, I that is one of my favorite covers of the song. It's up there with Jayma May's Cry singing it in episode 2, I think, of Glee.
Have you ever liked somebody so much you just want to lock yourself in your room, turn on sad music, and cry? No.
You know what Glee really could have used? Harold the Mummy.
You know what? You're right.
It would have been more watchable for me, actually.
Ditto.
So much so. Oh man, I'm just picturing it right now, and oh my god, what is wrong with my brain? I swear.
Nothing at all. That's the nice thing.
So that evening, Harold and Marshall are in his bedroom, watching his mom and Ted flirt with each other in the driveway.
We do have that little moment, especially when he's talking to Harold, which I find a little funny. Him trauma dumping on a mummy who probably doesn't understand anything at the moment.
I could almost imagine, especially when you later on find out that he was a priest when he alive, I could imagine that this is something that he would probably also listen to because, I know the priests, even though that he's an Egyptian priest, they still, kind of do the same thing as far as I'm aware, at least listen to people's problems.
Yeah, okay.
Now I'm picturing Harold as the priest in a confessional booth.
But now just imagine him as a mummy, just making, mummy noises.
Exactly.
I just give credit to this film for not doing what... Let's be honest, this is Disney we're talking about, so if we're setting up a step-parent dynamic, you'd think, oh, well, this character is almost certainly going to be vilified in some way, shape, or form, and really, the narrative doesn't vilify him at all. If anything is vilified, it's the fact that Marshall clearly just has to figure out how to accept that this is very likely going to be happening in his life, and he doesn't quite know how to feel about it yet.
Yeah, no, I would have thought they also would have been Marshall is against the new boyfriend. He's trying to get rid of it. Going for a Home Alone or, oh, I can't believe I'm bringing this up, but Man of the House, basically. I thought it was going to go from that. I'm thank God they didn't do that. Because it's the 90s. So
No, thankfully we got Mummy of the House.
Indeed we did.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to name drop a reference from a Escape from Walt Disney episode, but I did. But
So that night, while Marshall is asleep, Harold is just playing with the stuff in Marshall's room because I guess he's been asleep for thousands of years, so he doesn't feel tired. And he accidentally sends a koosh ball out the window when he's playing with the koosh fling shot, which begins another series of hijinks when Harold has to chase a little dog around the neighborhood trying to get the ball back, and it ends with him lifting the dog off the ground by the stretchy ball, trying to shake him off. I don't know if anyone around here ever had a koosh fling shot, but the fact that that's a plot point for shenanigans in this movie is really something.
I did.
I don't know if I did, but it seems familiar.
Okay, so how believable were the physics of that then?
Not very.
I would imagine it wouldn't be that powerful of a draw and a release.
As soon as you draw the thing, if you drew it that far, it would just snap and hurt your hand, and you would be just screaming for a minute.
Yep, sounds about right. And thanks to the mummy being out of the house to this situation, he also gets distracted by a museum sign directing him to a mummy exhibit at the museum, which the kids thankfully quickly find out about and follow him towards. And when they're there, they find out that the mummy has a long-lost lover who just happens to be here as well. And it seems the setup is for the two of them to be reunited in spirit when the time comes for him to have to be back in his sarcophagus. So we get a further emotional stakes involved from that. And from there, we also get the further setup that apparently the bad guys are hiding out in an ice cream factory, and that's where they are hiding Harold's true sarcophagus. So they end up going there, and that's where we end up discovering the villain plot of this movie, as convoluted as it is and difficult to follow. But of course, to get there, we gotta disguise him, so we get the absolute hilarity of him decking him out in some very Disco Dan attire and having him ride a little girl's bike.
That's wonderful. I'm all for that.
Oh, absolutely. Soundtracked to Get Down Tonight by Casey and the Sunshine Band, and that time they could actually license the official song. I'm guessing because this was the same year that they got Casey and the Sunshine Band to record a Flubber-themed remake of the song for the trailer for Flubber, which came out the same year.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
yeah, I did like the montage where he was disguised in an outfit, and then one woman realized, oh, he doesn't look right, starts screaming and stuff. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know what she's so freaked out by. I mean, you don't even see that much indication that his skin is all that crispy or bandaged with that little glance. So the kids make their way to the abandoned warehouse, and it's through here that the kids now find out that Mr. Kubat had faked his own death.
I think that was the weakest part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I would say this is a averagely okay family movie, and I did honestly say I really enjoyed it, but I say okay just because it kind of is going for the typical, like, goofy stuff, and it focuses a lot on the mummy with his crazy shenanigans, and they do focus on, like, the kids. And then, like, a middle into, like, the second or third act, then they reveal a bunch of, like, guys are gonna be like, we gotta get the mummy back, and I was like, well, okay, because I know Marshall mentions that he's afraid that's gonna happen to Harold the Mummy, but like the pacing kind of made it really off, and then they just revealed it out of nowhere, and then they do the plot twist of showing the old man is actually still alive. It's supposed to be a dun 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 part to me, and I'm just standing there like, oh, okay, I guess that's a reveal. I just found it so weak. And yeah, you mentioned about his like entire motivation of why he faked his death. It made no sense to me. I actually had to put it back onto the part for him explaining his motivation, and it still made no sense to me. I honestly, if you take it out of the movie, it's not really that needed, actually.
I guess the movie just felt like they needed some conflict for the sake of having a climax, and that was the best they could come up with.
Even though, hey, we got a mummy running around, that's already a conflict.
Right? But I guess they wanted, I don't know, a more suspenseful climax, and we figure, twist villain of some sort. That'll do the trick. Because as we all know, Disney has a fantastic track record with twist villains.
But yeah, the villain's actions and the climax, I have questions.
Most definitely.
Same. That whole twist was, my sister could see that coming from miles away, and she's in Japan right now, so that's how I just kind of like knew that was almost going to happen. And I didn't even read anything when I was starting to watch this, and as soon as I saw the coffin and some artifacts in the basement, my immediately thought was like, okay, yeah, he's a crook. There's no way anyone could do this. This is not Indiana Jones anymore.
Oh yeah.
Pure Flix presents Kubot's Not Dead.
He's surely alive. But yeah, what's interesting though is that, yeah, I also saw basically everything coming in the plot. That didn't necessarily mean I didn't have a good time. Predictability doesn't necessarily mean terrible, but I can't help but kind of understand Gilbert's thought process of, why can't the suspense be they just got a little distracted having fun with Harold, and then they realize, oh right, we need to return him to his sarcophagus by midnight on Halloween or he turns to dust. You know, there's already suspense there anyway.
Yeah, and then with Kubot, it's like, hey, Kubot, you need to get him back into the sarcophagus anyway, or you're not gonna have a mummy you can sell.
Right? Yeah, that was definitely convoluted, but, you know, I also can be somewhat forgiving in the sense of, I know that whoever was involved in this project, they just felt like, we gotta have some suspense, and it feels weird to not have some kind of a bad guy for the kids to feel empowered by defeating in some way, so okay, this is what we'll come up with. So now the kids have discovered that not only is Mr. Kubot in fact alive, but has Harold's sarcophagus, so they have to try and figure out how to get him to there without being seen.
Is this the only decom to name drop Mayor McCheese? Because honestly, respect.
Yeah, right, because of course, Marshall is spying on the bad guy's hideout with a pair of crappy toy binoculars, and that's when Gilbert says,
Kubot's got goons. We have no goons. All we've got is a 3,000-year-old mummy and a pair of Mayor McCheese binoculars!
Yeah, because I missed that particular trend of marketing from McDonald's as far as me being aware of how they were trying to appeal to kids. And yeah, I've not seen a single other thing that has made a reference to that. That was my introduction to the name, for crying out loud. I couldn't help but be like, wait, is that just a knockoff of McDonald's because they couldn't get that brand deal either? Is that real?
And this was before they brought Mayor McCheese back for that one cartoon.
Yeah, Mayor McCheese, as far as I was aware, was already kind of almost forgotten about, because I remember during the 90s, I mean, the big stuff was Grimace and Birdie and, you know, Hamburglar and Ronald, but Mayor McCheese was almost kind of like forgotten at that point.
Yeah, and of course the toy binoculars barely actually work as binoculars when they become a plot point.
The goggles do nothing.
Actually, the most surprising thing I got from this, especially from the first decom, is just how much they were able to name drop a bunch of IPs and also show a bunch of existing food brands. Because obviously we just joked about the dairy freeze thing. Because I know in other decoms after this, they tried their best to make up like fast food names or like movies and stuff like that. Like they actually name dropped a couple existing things, which I feel like they wouldn't be able to do. And I found that kind of interesting, which maybe that was my guess to why it's not on Disney Plus. I don't know. I don't think it means anything.
Could be maybe the fact that Hallmark had something to do with it. Maybe they had already some existing licensing for other stuff. That's all I can think of.
That's certainly a possibility.
Well, now I have the image of Mayor McCheese doing a Hallmark movie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And from there, we get the setup of a Halloween dance party, so we can further get some conflict set up that at midnight tonight, we gotta make sure Harold gets back to his sarcophagus, but also we can have all of these characters dressing up for the occasion, and we get some hijinks out of that, of course. Especially when the time comes to have the kids show up at the dance party itself and try to get Bruce to drive them back to the ice cream factory and deliver the sarcophagus back to the museum, because they figure it'll be better for Harold to have his sarcophagus next to that of his lady love. But first they need costumes to get into the Halloween party, so Marshall has some kind of skull mask. Amy brought Princess Leia earmuffs. And Gilbert's wearing... my first impression was that was an Elton John cosplay of some kind, but he claimed it was Dennis Rodman.
Yikes.
Yes. That was the first thing I thought, too, was, oh, he's Elton John. It's like Dennis Rodman. It's like, huh?
Kid? I hate to break this to you, but you're white. Hard to pull off.
Honestly, my first thought was this one gag in the producer's musical. Will I elaborate? You know what? No, I won't.
Oh, man. But of course, we end up getting plenty of Halloween party-related hijinks, especially when the kids, of course, separate from Harold. Gilbert is told to keep watch, but of course gets bored to get refreshments, which of course is the perfect moment for Harold to get distracted by All By Myself to start being played by the DJ at the party, so that he can then be followed relatively undetected by Mr. Kubat's goons, who, of course, were able to follow Harold to this party because Harold just happened to accidentally leave behind a strip of bandage back when the kids were spying on them back at the warehouse. And then, of course, we get our third act as a result when the goons finally show up and cause a ruckus. But until then, we get this very interesting sequence where he's mistaken for a real person and dances with a lady in Egyptian garb.
Biggest laugh in the movie probably being the...
Where are you going?
Sorry, ma'am. We gotta go.
Who are you? His son?
No, ma'am. He's celibate.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, that lady at the Halloween party who's in the Egyptian garb, she was maybe my favorite of the cast, to be honest.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or did it feel like the Egyptian woman and Harold, because she was almost mistaken for the principal? Were they having an affair?
Yeah, I was getting confused about that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. Phil? Who is this woman, and why is she hanging all over you? Excuse me, but who are you? His wife. You're married?
What's going on?
Oh, Phil?
Of course.
Well, if that's your husband, then who is this?
I do love that Gilbert, he thought it was the mummy, but I love that he just punched a guy.
What are you doing? I don't care how old you are. You are not drinking around me, you big idiot.
Hey.
Do you hate me? We gotta get out of here. We're in big trouble. Where is Marshall?
Gilbert?
Okay, so you're not Harold. So you would be...
Mr. Hammer, your principal?
You know, I just smacked my principal. Not good.
Not good at all.
Marshall and Amy, of course, find Bruce, and of course he's very dismissive of the idea, because of course it sounds absolutely insane if you live in the real world and some kids come up to you with this idea, and you just assume they're, trying to play pretend and rope you in with it. But of course, he starts to get convinced after a while when things start to get extra crazy at this party. Especially when Harold actually gets revealed as a mummy in a way that is very convincing to everybody. And that's when Bruce finally is convinced to help out, very begrudgingly. And then in the process, they end up leaving Harold behind for a bit because he selflessly holds back, using his strength to protect the others from getting in trouble with the goons, resulting in his capture. And of course, it's just like, we can't abandon our friend, we gotta help him, we gotta save him. So of course, they convince Bruce to drive them to the ice cream factory. Again, so delightfully bizarre that of all places the bad guy's hideout is an ice cream factory.
Oh yeah, the secret warehouse was a ice cream factory. I don't know why, I found that really funny setting. It's like, we gotta go to the secret warehouse, and then it's just an ice cream factory.
Because nobody would suspect the ice cream factory. And from there, we get the plot setup of using Bruce's supply of costume gear and whatnot to try and make it easier to break in a way that's hopefully helpful to these guys. Gilbert, of course, waits in the car outside because he's too scared of getting caught by the bad guys, which will come into play later. They, of course, fail because none of them know what they're doing. Who would have thunk it? It kind of looks like it's going to go all right for them, and then it doesn't, because wouldn't you know it, these career criminals actually kind of know what they're doing, and they're not incomplete morons. Kind of refreshing considering that this is a kids' movie from this time period where very often the grown-ups are quite problematically dumb in a way that makes it very difficult to believe they were even able to have the upper hand in the first place with anything. And from there we get the big reveal, our master plan from the villain. Apparently he faked his death to avoid having to pay his taxes, and now, because he has possession of this sarcophagus and this mummy, they are apparently worth quite a lot of money and he can sell them to the highest bidder, I suppose. And just when it looks like all hope is lost, and Marshall, Amy, and Bruce are going to meet their maker at the hands of Mr. Kubat, Gilbert comes crashing through the wall of the factory, causing a whole heap of pipes to collapse on Mr. Kubat and his goons.
When they're like, you know what, Gilbert, it's okay. If you don't want to go into this, we're cool with that. I appreciated that. And I still appreciated Gilbert getting his hero moment, but nevertheless.
Oh yeah, I mean, I saw that coming, but I appreciated that they weren't acting as if, no, we have to change this kid's state of mind to make him worthy of our friendship or whatever. I appreciated that, honestly, because if I remember some stuff I saw from around this time period, that wasn't necessarily the norm for, especially for your comic relief kid. Usually the idea is that they learn to be better by basically becoming a whole different person.
No, but this one he gets to go all GTA Gilbert Theft Auto.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, definitely. And I almost knew it was going to happen, but I'm just thinking, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And then when he does it, it was kind of great, actually.
Yeah, just because the plot's never really surprising doesn't mean it's not still satisfying at some moments when certain things happen. But one thing that is surprising is when Mr. Kubat survives the ceiling collapse like that. I mean, my goodness, how durable is this guy? He survives the ceiling collapse and he points a gun at them, but then Harold just grabs Kubat and throws him across the room.
Oh, also, so where did the buyer go that meets with Kubat late in the film? Where did he go?
I guess he just left.
Yeah, oh, okay, bye.
I don't know. It's left ambiguous for Mr. Kubat as well. I guess we're just left to assume that he just will lay there knocked out for the rest of the runtime, because we never see him again after he gets thrown into all those boxes.
Yeah, he's just, okay, defeated. And I guess the goons are dead because the ceiling fell on them.
Those did look like some pretty heavy metal pipes, so...
I actually like the fact that they didn't go the Home Alone route in that, where they do traps with the villains. They almost seem a little bit more threatening than you would have thought.
As fun as Home Alone antics would have been, you have a very good point.
Yeah, this came out in 97. I feel like, it's going to go there, isn't it? And then I'm like, thank God. Because I already mentioned of Home Alone, and I'm like, just please don't reference 90s stuff. But, 90s movie.
The Home Alone version of this movie would have ended with, Kevin, what have you done to my tomb?
If that was the closing line, that would have been so on the nose.
But I mean, the villain's getting defeated by a car running through it. That almost sounds believable if you think about it.
Yeah, downright. Because quite frankly, though, I mean, it much like the ultimate comeuppance for the baddies in Home Alone when they get hit by the snow shovel the way that they do, in both cases, those guys are dead, right? It's hard to recover from the injuries one normally sustains from something like that.
Skull fracture with epidural hematoma. Marv is dead. Facial fracture with epidural hematoma. Harry is dead.
I do not fear death. I see the living mummy in front of me, so I know that return is possible.
Oh, no. That'll be okay. They'll just wake up in 3,000 years and it'll be a sequel.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, 3,000 years from now, will there even still be us? And by that, I mean the human race.
Let's not go that deep.
Well, it worked the first time.
It sure did. Who knows? So we are able to put Harold back in his sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is put in the museum where he can finally go back in, say goodbye to his lady love mummy. We even get the extra mysticism of the moonlight shining on her so that she comes to life too. So we actually get to see them embrace for a little bit before the two of them collectively are put to rest in their sarcophagi. And everything is set right in the end. And from there, I guess Marshall learned his lesson to accept that things change over time and therefore is accepting of the future that he holds.
Yeah, at the end when he says, other people shouldn't stand in their way, it's like, dang, this got deep.
That's right. And we still kind of have the symbolic growing up scene of him packing the stuff away and being like, I think I've just outgrown this stuff, but it's more framed as, well, I've had enough of this to last a lifetime after all the stuff with the mummy, so.
I didn't know. I kind of didn't know if I liked that ending, because I was like, oh, I liked if the kid just kept his room the way, because I didn't understand why he did that, but I guess now when you mention it, kind of makes sense, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat as Sophie here.
It did feel like obligatorily following a formula.
Yeah, I'm definitely saying, because then I'm thinking, well, in about 20 years, you're definitely going to want to try to do that in another room of your apartment building if you can afford it.
Exactly. It's just like, maybe he won't even be able to do that. So, if anything, maybe that was one of the worst decisions that he made out of all the decisions that were made in this film. But yeah, well, I mean, it is established at the very end that Marshall and Amy are going to be seeing the movie Warthead together, which, Warthead 4, sorry, I should have specified there. That's the movie the fake movie that Marshall and Gilbert were watching at the beginning. It's established that he's now going to watch it with Amy, so he clearly hasn't completely given up on his fondness for the macabre. I guess it's more subtle now. And maybe I should bring up, well, I mean, there's definitely something going on between Marshall and Amy. I mean, at the very end, he very hastily puts on some nice clothes and gels up his hair, and Amy's wearing a slightly more feminine attire than usual in the final scene. So, I mean, they probably just don't want to quite admit that maybe they do have some feelings for each other, but I do appreciate that it doesn't feel as forced as you just know it would in most stuff like this. It feels less forced here than what I'm used to in this type of content.
The movie tries to do that thing at the end where they're like, oh, I think Marshall and Amy will have a thing together, and I just didn't really need that. But they try to retcon that would be like, oh, they're actually just making fun of each other at the end, and I thought that was nice. Like, thank you, please. I don't need to ship these kids. It didn't need to be in here.
Yeah, if they actually committed fully to that, it would just be like, okay, you're doing this because you felt like you had to.
Yeah, even as is, it feels like, oh, because you had to.
That was the one thing about the ending that just felt like a forced ship.
Like I said, I appreciate that she wasn't written as the girly character who was going to be shipped with one of the boys. Like, I didn't want that.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's not committed to fully when you know it easily could have been. So much media, certainly around this time, amongst many others, it often felt like it was obligatory to have that there. But, the elements of it are still there, but I'm glad it wasn't fully committed to. And all is seemingly right with the world, and that's where things kind of end.
For someone who did watch the 2021 remake, I was really able to find a lot of similarities in a couple of things, because I was like, wow, they really did a shot-by-shot remake. Because at the time I was like, oh, I don't really recognize half of this stuff, and then I see the Halloween party, and then the guy hosting the haunted house, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize all of that from the remake. I don't know. And then also, I guess the biggest difference between this and the remake is that the remake is a little more safer on the humor compared to this movie. Not saying that's a bad thing, I don't know, especially the difference in the decade too, I guess.
I remember finding Marshall more likable in this movie than in the remake.
Which is interesting, because he's played by one of the kids from the movie Jack, so I'm impressed at how likable he was in this.
Oh shoot, oh, not Jack.
I would like you all to write an essay on what you would want to be when you grow up. I want to be a gynecologist. If that's so, then I want good reasons why. You are the reason why, Miss Marquez.
Yeah, I was more than a little concerned about the psychological well-being of that kid, let alone his upbringing. But before we get too deep talking about Francis Ford Coppola's Jack, I think it's actually time we started asking some opinions on that, because now we are coming to the ultimate verdict that will determine the fate of what we discover while we're venturing through the Disney Outlands, and that is, do you think this movie should be added to Disney+? In other words, is it a plus or pass? Now, I must note that whether or not something is a plus or pass doesn't necessarily have to do with how much you enjoyed the thing, but how much you think it's worth it to have it be an option for people to see on Disney Plus if it was there. So, Rob, what do you think? Is this a plus or pass?
I'm gonna say it's a plus, especially with it being the first decon.
Paul, what do you think? Is Under Wraps, parentheses 1997, a plus or pass?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a plus on this, because I can't figure out a justifiable way why this isn't on Disney Plus except for licensing issues. And Hocus Pocus is on Disney Plus, so the reason that Under Wraps isn't there can't be that it's too dated.
Indeed. And Sophie, what do you think? Is Under Wraps a plus or pass in your opinion?
I do think this is a plus for me. I don't think I'll ever probably rewatch it anytime soon, but I definitely feel like I will probably put this on mostly during the Halloween season. I love cheesy, campy Halloween movies, and this is totally up my alley. But yeah, no, I kind of do wish that this was on Disney Plus. I feel like, especially the fact this is branded as the first DCOM, I feel like it's good to let newer generations get into this movie, and even people who were nostalgic, who were kids when this was airing, also able to rewatch it and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I do recommend it if you really do want to get into some like nice, campy, spooky Halloween movies for the season.
Honestly, I quite agree with that. With that, it's unanimous because I also believe this is a plus. It does seem strange that this isn't accessible on that streaming service because I had a good time with this one, and due to its historical significance as what is officially considered the first DCOM, it is odd that it isn't there. I certainly hope it's just a licensing issue, and if it is, hopefully it can get resolved in some way, shape, or form, because I feel like it would be nice to at least give people the opportunity to see it for themselves, as far as being presented with an opportunity to see what came before and even compare and contrast with the remake from 2021. I think that would be an awful lot of fun. All I know is that I had a really good time watching this particular movie, and I'm glad that I got around to watching it, because honestly, if this is the debut of the DCOM, considering many other DCOMs I've seen, it's off to a real good start, and I gotta say, I was impressed in ways I wasn't expecting to be. Like, sure, I still saw a not especially bright made-for-TV movie for kids, but for what it was, I had fun, and I'm so glad that I did, and I'm so glad that it seems like all of us have as well. And with that, I think it's time that we start discussing whether or not any of us has anything that they would like to plug. Rob, anything to plug?
I'm on Blue Sky at robsnatcher.bsky.social.
Wonderful. Sophie, anything to plug?
Not doing anything big at the moment, but I mean, if you want to follow me in my crazy little shenanigans, which is not barely anything, I am mostly on Instagram with 2 accounts. My main account is Sophers. I usually do a lot of stories on Instagram stories, and that's basically where I'm that active. I, share a couple of other people's art, I'm kind of funny on there sometimes, I express myself, and then I have another account, which is my art account, Soph Sketch a Lot. That one I'm not as active on there, but if you want to, look at my art, think it's really pretty, yeah. And I'm going to try to go back and start drawing again, because I have a couple of things I'm planning to do. And I'm actually more active on Letterboxd. I like to do a lot of movie reviews, and that's basically where I'm trying to start for myself. So I'm mostly active on there, do a little bit of some big reviews, small, little jokey vlogs. But, if you want to, see what I'm talking about, yeah, go ahead and follow me on there. By just my name is Sophie Hurtado on there.
Amazing. And Paul, anything to plug?
Yes, I do. I do have a YouTube channel where I keep all my archives of VHS tapes that I capture and just random old commercials and some rare shows that were on TV that never got a DVD release that can kind of go on YouTube. It's at VHS Recordings with an S. It's under Paul's VHS Recordings if you're trying to find it on YouTube. I've also got a Japanese YouTube account called Paul's Japanese Recordings at Paul's Japanese VHS channel. I'm also on Blue Sky at Konacha37, KONACHA37.bsky.social. You can pretty much find me on there. I don't post as much there, but I'm usually pretty active on my YouTube channel.
Delightful. And you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Leif Bradshaw Music. That's spelled Leif, by the way. And on Instagram at Leif Bradshaw Sings. And again, that's Leif. You can also follow this particular podcast on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You can find every episode of this podcast on YouTube, as well as the usual outlets like Audible, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And you can help us out by leaving a review, giving us 5 stars, and sharing it with all your friends. If you'd like to help us even more, you can donate to our Patreon at patreon.com/Disney Outlands, where if you pledge any amount, even just $1 per podcast, you get to hear new episodes of this show at least 2 days early. Special thanks to James Moyner, and an extra special thanks to friend of the show Jacob Martin for the Halloween reorchestration of our theme music. And of course, I have to give my thanks to each of our guests. Thank you, every single one of you, for your delightful contributions and for joining me on this adventure through the Disney Outlands. This was an absolutely wonderful time. Thank you, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on this adventure.
It was a pleasure. I enjoy being on here.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. I had a really good time.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for coming. This was absolutely delightful, and I look forward to where our journey will take us in the future. To discover what we'll be reviewing next time, we are feeding our entire Not on Disney Plus master list into our magical GPS receiver and seeing which title it's telling us to visit next. So, let's fire up the old GPS and hit the randomizer button. And the title for our next episode is Tin Men from the year 1987. What is this? Some kind of obscure sequel to the sequel Return to Oz I don't know about? Okay, no, it's a touchstone picture of some sort. Barry Levinson. Ooh, director of Rain Man. Okay, this should be interesting. Well, I look forward to checking out what this one is. We'll see what we're in for. Well, thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on today's adventure. And we'll see you next time on the Disney Outlands! The Disney Outlands is co-created by Leif Bradshaw and Brian Harris. Hosted by Leif Bradshaw. Produced and guest booking by Brian Harris. Music composed by Leif Bradshaw. Music production by Jacob Martin. Research and editing by Brian Harris. Logo and cover art by Cade Fisher.